Speakers, please turn on your cameras so that we can begin. Before we can start the debate, the speakers for USM must state their speaker position. USM, please state your speaker position. I know who's the Prime Minister for USM.
I am the Prime Minister.
Shararat.
Yeah, Shararat.
Who's gonna be the
Nur Helwani.
Nur Helwani?
Yes,
Government
Helwani.
whip?
Ui Iling.
Okay.
Okay.
Next, the speakers for Kerabat Uya must take their speaker positions. May I know who is the opposition leader?
Yes, it's me, Sauban.
Sauban. Who's gonna be the deputy leader of opposition?
Me, Nurhanina.
Nurhanina. And who's gonna be the opposition whip?
It's me, Ismail Hakim.
Ismail Hakim. Okay, thank you.
Can we get that written on chat? And how are POIs going to be asked? Is it going to be through chat or?
Pardon me?
POIs for POIs?
Yeah.
Are they going to be asked through like chat or are they allowed to like speak over each other or
Yes,
something like that?
private chat. Private chat.
The chat inside the room.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening to the honorable educators, lecturers, debaters, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start our debate today, please mute your microphones to ensure there will be no disturbance to the flow of this debate. I would like all participants to turn on their cameras for this competition. My name is Ashifah Najihah, and I will be the chairperson for this debate session. Meanwhile, Nur Aminah will be the timekeeper for this debate. This House would like to call upon the motion that this House support the efforts to fund the creation of self-driving cars. Now, I would like to clarify the rules and regulation of this debate competition. For the substantive speech, the timekeeper will ring the bell at the end of the first minute to show that point of information can now be delivered. The timekeeper will ring once at the beginning of 6 minutes to show that time for point of information is over. The timekeeper will ring twice at the 7th minute, after which the speaker has 15 seconds to conclude their speech. Then, the timekeeper will ring continuously to show that the time is over and any further explanation will not be taken into account. After both sides have presented their speeches, 3 minutes will be given to each team to prepare their reply speeches. The oppositions are to be presented in the reply speeches. For the reply speeches, the timekeeper will ring once at the end of 3rd minute to indicate that the speaker has 1 minute left to conclude their speech. And the timekeeper will ring twice at the 4th minute, in which the speaker has 10 seconds to conclude. Finally, the timekeeper will ring continuously to indicate the time is over. All debaters are expected to have a reliable and good internet connection during this debate. Shall there be any unavoidable circumstances where debaters lose connection during their speech, 5 minutes will be granted for debaters to regain their connection. If debaters fail to gain connection within the 5 minutes, marks will be given. A sound check will be done now as I announce the speakers of each team. When your name is called, please test your microphones to ensure you are audible. Please inform the committee if there are any problem or technical issues. USM will be acting as the government team with Mr. Shararas as the Prime Minister. Mr. Shararas, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Mrs. Nur Helwani as the Deputy Prime Minister. Mrs. Nur Helwani, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Mrs. Ui Yiling as the Government Whip. Mr. Ui Yiling, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Then Kerabat Uya from IIUM will be acting as the opposition team for this debate with Mr. Sauban as the opposition leader. Mr. Sauban, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Mrs. Nur Hanina as the deputy leader of opposition. Mrs. Hanina, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
And Mr. Ismail Hakim as the opposition whip. Mr. Ismail Hakim, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I shall now introduce our adjudicators, Mrs. Zara Nadira and Mr. Ui Chun Kiat.
Hello.
Yes, we are here.
Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I call upon the Prime Minister, Mrs. Shararas, to open the case for the government. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. So, a good day to Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The motion for our debate is that this House support the efforts to fund the creation of self-driving car. Now, we as today, government team strongly believes that this is true. But before we come to our actual argumentation, let us define some important terms in this debate. We believe that what is meant by fund in Oxford Dictionary is the sum of money saved or made available for a particular purpose. It is provided with money for a particular purpose. And as for self-driving vehicles are cars or trucks in which human drivers are never required to take control to safely operate the vehicle, or it also known as autonomous or driverless car. They combine sensors and software to control, navigate, and drive the vehicle. We, the government team, believe that this statement is true. So today's motion is clear that this House support the efforts to fund the creation of self-driving car. Today, as the first speaker, I will be talking to you about how the self-driving cars can make people's life more efficient, and the efforts to fund this kind of self-driving cars can reduce human error. Our second speaker will elaborate on the fact that it increases safety and it is a must to fund this self-driving car where it promotes on fuel saving and it reduces pollution. Our third speaker will rebut and sum up our team case. So I'm going to discuss 2 points. My first point is why it is a need to fund the creation of self-driving car. So self-driving car can make people's life more efficient. Imagine you getting into your car, typing or better yet speaking, a location into your vehicle's interface, then letting it drive you to your destination while you read a book, surf the web, or even take a nap. Self-driving vehicles, the stuff of science fiction since the first roads were paved, are coming, and they're going to radically change what's 2009. Google started the self-driving car project with the goal of driving autonomously over 10 uninterrupted 100 miles route. And even in 2016, Waymo, an autonomous driving technology company, became a subsidiary of Alphabet and Google self-driving project. So automation has affected the lives of most people in several ways, changing numerous factors of life. And as it proceeds to grow, the change will be more effective and evident. And this automation will result in more efficient outcomes, save time, costs, as well as contribute to a better environment, since the use of automation will allow calculated, precise use of materials that will not be wasted. To be able to fully take advantage of these changes, of the change that's happening and will continue to happen, others should be considered adaptability, resiliency, and community. So all the people should be adaptable and accepting of the development. So now to my second point. My second point is how it reduces human error. So as you know, there's a news lately, it's about a truck hits the MyV car on the road. It is because of one thing, human errors. So with AI as an instrument inside our in our car, we will have the opportunity to reduce the number of human errors. So there's a lot of companies that helps in providing autonomous cars such as Tesla, where the autopilot safety and convenience feature are designed to assist you with burdensome parts of driving. So this autopilot enables your car to steer, accelerate, and brake automatically within its lane. And thus, it reduces the human error and also the number of accidents happens. There is also a system which is called collisions avoidance system, CAS, where it is known as pre-crash system, a forward collision warning system, where it's an advanced driver assistance system designed to prevent and reduce the severity of collision. In its basic form, a forward collision warning, the vehicle speed and the speed of the vehicle in front of it, and also the distance between the vehicles, so that it can provide a warning to the driver if the vehicles get too close. Sorry, potentially helping to avoid a crash. So, AI. So, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, as what I have said today, what is the advantages of to fund the creation of self-driving car is that it makes people's lives more efficient. It reduces human error. Therefore, this House supports the efforts to fund the creation of self-driving cars. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The Prime Minister spoke for 6 minutes 33 seconds. Next, let us invite the opposition leader, Mr. Sauban, to state the opposition's objection with regards to today's motion.
Test. 1, 2, 3. Oh.
Wait, Amina, can you reset the time again? Okay. Okay, you may start now.
All right, all clear, right?
Yes, yes.
All right. So the motion for today is that this House deny the support of the effort to fund the creation of self-driving car. All right, that is an impossible dream, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, these three representatives from USM are fighting a losing battle to begin with. But before that, Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon I bid to all, very honorable of judges and precise timekeeper, amazing opponent on government, worthy comrades on side of opposition, and not to forget members of this beautiful house. I'm going to, first thing first, the thing that I'm going to do today is that first I'm going to rebut whatever case has been brought out by the side of Prime Minister. Second, I will provide the argument from the oppositions. Let's take a look at what has been defined by the Prime Minister. One thing that not to overlook on is that she's failed to elucidate us what kind of fund and how much the weightage should be allocated on the self-driving car. They are also failed to focus on what level of automation or autonomous vehicle are you they're talking about. You have failed to set the parameter on today's argument. So what shame, my dear comrades. Before you accept the motion, you need to prove to us why we should support the fund for operation of self-driving car. What mechanism do you measure of the safety of the self-driving car? What kind of fund are you so confident giving full autonomy to the machine? And when will that far-fetched dream will be attained? Ladies and gentlemen, what is the stand of the side of the opposition for today's motion? We tell you, our stand is crystal clear. This House does not support of the effort to fund the creation of self-driving car. All right. Moving on to my next task, I want to signpost my team structure. What will I do today and what will my comrades do? First, I'm going to provide an argument under the key phrase of unintended consequences, or mainly talking about the safety or dangers of self-driving car. My second Prime Minister will talk about moral machine dilemma, and my wit will sum up and rebut all problematic argument from the side of the government. All right, what does it mean by unintended consequence? Unintended consequence is an outcomes of a purposeful action that are not intended or foreseen. And what is that? What does it mean by function? Function is the range of the operation that can be run on computer or other electrical system. Ladies and gentlemen, are driverless cars safer? Despite claims to the contrary, self-driving cars currently have a higher rate of accidents rather than humans-driven car. On average, there are 9.1 self-driving car accidents per million miles driven, while the same rate is 4.1 crashes per million miles to regular vehicles. Let's take a look at some of the dangers inherent driverless car. First thing first is that false sense of security. These cars are often marketed as driverless. So is it any wonder when human drivers act more like passive passenger when they operate them? None of these driverless cars are entirely self-driving. So labeling them driverless is misleading at best. It seems to be true that the vast majority of all accidents involving self-driving car have been the result of the human driver being distracted, as often happens in a car with no automation. Yes, drivers are supposed to be alert and ready to take over control a moment's notice, but how likely is that when the driverless car was purchased to be, well, driverless? So the most recent fatality involving driverless Tesla occurred in Texas on Saturday, April 17, when it crashed, killing both passengers, continuing to burn for 4 hours. According to an article by Washington Post, the accident is under investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board and NTSB, but police reported no one was driving the vehicle. The culprit who is the culprit here? Is the self-driver car, all right? So second is that the danger of the fire. Lithium ion, Li, batteries are well known to be highly combustible. As lithium burns, it creates a metal fire with temperature that reach about 10 plus degrees Fahrenheit or 2000 degrees Celsius. Attempting to do the fire with water could lead to a hydrogen gas explosion. According to the National Transportation Safety Board, if a collision damage a battery of uncontrolled increase in temperature and pressure. These can cause an explosion of toxic gases, the release of projectiles, and fire, presenting an additional danger to emergency responders. Here are some incidents that I can give to you on what the bad impression or the bad impact of the self-driving car. First, the April 17 Tesla crash mentioned above resulted in a fire that lasted for hours and required over 30,000 gallons of water to put it out. A vehicle fire is normally brought under controls in minutes, according to the Washington Post. Second, in 2018, a 2012 Tesla Model S appeared to spontaneously catch fire while it was being driven in West Hollywood, CA. There was no injuries in the accident, but not that there was no collision that sparked the fire. Third one, in 2018, 2014 Tesla Model S crashed in Fort Lauderdale, FL. And fourth incident that in 2017, a driver lost control of a 2016 Tesla X SUV and crashed into the garage of the house. Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the rebuttal that I have to Prime Minister, what she said in his speech is basically simple. You can sum up whatever that she said into the benefit of the self-driving car, right? So she basically stated a near obvious thing, which already we can see that happening. But what she failed to do is that she failed to tell us on the level of autonomous car, all right? There's 5 levels of autonomous. We have no automation, driver assistant, partial automation, conditional automation, and high automation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, they'll never clarify to you about that. So with that, I raise my case here, and this House believe and this House deny the support of the effort to fund the creation of self-driving car. Thank you so much.
Please stop the bell. Please stop the time. Thank you to Mr. Saubain. The opposition leader spoke for 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Sorry, it's actually 7 minutes, 26 seconds. To continue our debate today, I call upon the Deputy Prime Minister, Mrs. Nur Helwani, to counter the opposition's argument. Mrs. Nur Helwani, you can start now.
Okay. So, a very good afternoon to the respected speaker, cautious timekeeper, honorable judges, members of the opposite team, and members of the floor. So as the second speaker, I'm going to rebut every single problematic idea that came from. But first, I would like to point out what was wrong with their argument. They said that self-driving cars, you know the saying, guns don't kill people, people kill people. It goes same way for vehicles. Cars don't cause crashes, people cause crashes. Whether from reckless driving, human error, texting, drinking, or just generally being distracted behind the wheel. Human drivers are the most dangerous part of the driving experience. Therefore, I had to disagree with that statement, as the leader of opposition fails to understand our mechanism to begin with. So they also said that the battery use is not the lithium battery use is not environmentally friendly. I had to disagree with that because machines are extremely dependent on human. In Terminator series, as a military AI called Skynet becomes self-aware and begins using military hardware to attack humans. So this kind of scenario drastically underestimates how much machines depend on human beings to keep them working. So a modern economy right now consists of millions of different kinds of machines that perform a variety of specialized function. So while growing number of depend on humans to supply power and raw materials, repair them when they break, manufacture more when they wear out, and so forth. Therefore, I would like to reaffirm the points given by the Prime Minister, which is how why we should support the motion of efforts to fund the creation of self-driving cars is to give because the self-driving cars give more effective and evidence, and also it reduces human error, because with this technology as instrument inside our political portfolio, we will have the opportunity to reduce the number of human and process errors. So today I will be giving you my points on how we should support motion of efforts to fund the creation of self-driving cars. So my first point is that self-driving cars can actually reduce accidents happens. So because start with perhaps one of the most widely touted and yet controversial topics, the safety of self-driving cars. There are many in the media and automotive industry that justify the need for having self-driving cars by emphasizing the human drivers are unsafe and that AI-driven vehicles will be presumably safer. So the basis for asserting that human drivers are unsafe is typically centered on the number of annual deaths that occur due to human driven car crashes, amounting to about 40,000 deaths annually in the US alone. Of course, any death due to car crashes is one too many, and we would all undoubtedly agree that averting death and injuries from car crashes is laudable goal. You know the saying just now that I mentioned, guns don't kill people, people kill people. So it goes same way for vehicles. In fact, Tesla's safety data on its autopilot features usage convinced its CEO, Elon Musk, that it would have been irresponsible of the company to withhold the feature from a public release. Given how much safer autopilot was compared to a human driver, it may be difficult for a human to make a split-second decision to veer right or left when a collision is imminent. But for a computer that has run thousands of simulation or has a collective driving experience of hundreds of thousands of similar incidents, the safest path can be chosen instantly to avoid any collision. How can there be any counter-argument to the notion of seeking to avoid car-related death? You might be wondering. Yes, the overall point is that there are ready-to-go means to reduce the annual number of fatalities of driving, and yet the solution instead seems to be self-driving cars rather than aiming at existing approaches. So it is not an argument about saving lives. I all agree to the desire to do so, and instead of an argument about what is the most economical and timely way to save lives. So moving on to my next, and this leads to my next point, which is how self-driving cars can actually reduce pollution. Other than that, it can also improve in air quality at the same time, where driverless cars, also referred to as self-driving cars or autonomous car, are vehicles that don't require a person to manually control them. So you don't need to have your hands on the steering wheel, and in some cases there isn't even a steering wheel to hold. So in general, a driverless car's computer system takes over all driving responsibilities. So the vehicle system uses infrared radars like laser radar, as well as sophisticated motion sensors, cameras, incredibly accurate GPS, and complex algorithms that allow the car to drive itself. So using all of this technology, along with historical data from log hours, the car can generate a map of its surrounding to know where it's going, what's around it, significantly less gas and energy when driving compared to the vehicle driven by a human. It's also expected that as driverless car technology is advanced, the weight of the car will drop as a result of lighter batteries, and less need for heavy safety modification to engine. So all in all, driverless cars are undoubtedly a boon for the planet. Not only they will have car emissions, reduce fatalities of humans and wildlife, and allow us to focus on green space more than roads. They will also give every commuter more time in their days. So with that, I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
The Deputy Prime Minister spoke for 6 minutes, 59 seconds. Next, I would like to call upon the Deputy Leader of Opposition, Mrs. Nur Hanina. Mr. Nur Hanina, are you here?
Yes.
Yes, you may start now.
Okay, thank you. And good afternoon to everyone. So first, I would like to rebut the points given by the first speaker, saying that she quoted that while the self-driving cars moving on the road, we can read a book, search a web, or take a nap. First thing first, how can you ensure that everything is on control? Self-driving cars is programmed by artificial intelligence, of course. They itself have limitation on interpreting causal reasoning, and that I will explain furthermore. And the second thing is, you said that it will reduces human error. But how about the self-driving cars error? Like I mentioned before, self-driving cars have limitation on interpreting causal reasoning. And move on to the second speaker, where she said that the self-driving cars will reduce accident. And she quoted that dents don't kill people, people kill people, which is very contradictory to what the first speaker said, where the first speaker quoted that while driving, they can do anything they want, including taking a nap. And imagine if the self-driving cars having accidents, and while you're taking a nap, who's going to be the blame? Are you going to blame the cars? You are the one who's in the car as a driver, even though the car itself is a self-driving cars. Okay, and that's I will explain about the causal reasoning. Like I mentioned before, self-driving cars is lacking of causal reasoning because it is programmed by artificial intelligence. Self-driving cars does not have gut feelings and intuition, which is quoted itself by Sir Ted Karaman, which is a leading expert of self-driving cars. He agreed that even the expert itself agreed that the self-driving cars is not efficient because they don't have gut feelings and intuitions like human. It is a human nature. They have lack of judgments between multiple unfavorable outcomes. Self-driving cars cannot comprehend human intuitions, such as human expression. For example, a pedestrian wanted to cross the street, right? As a human, when we looked at the pedestrian, we understand that they wanted to cross the street by looking at their expression. But what about self-driving cars? They do not understand that. They cannot comprehend on what the pedestrian are trying to do. Thus, it will cause, it is very dangerous for the driver itself.
Please.
No, for the driver itself to not pay attention even though you are on a self-driving car.
POI, please.
No.
Yes, POI.
Okay. Imagine, okay, for another example, where like you mentioned before, like you when you're taking a nap, okay, since self-driving cars, I would like to give you a situation where there's a kid inside the car, inside a self-driving car, where there's a roadblock and there's a pedestrian is trying to walk. Which ways do you think that the self-driving cars will go? Will they hit the roadblock, or they just walk and hit the pedestrian that is trying to cross the street? And another thing
POI,
mentioned
please.
by the first speaker, no, the second speaker, it said that, no, the first speaker mentioned that, I'm sorry, the second speaker mentioned that the self-driving cars can choose the safest path for them to drive. Of course, But what about the other cars that's trying to enter their lane? Will they actually seize that? And they don't have that intuition and the gut feelings that the car will actually go into their lanes. Unlike we human, we might we can see when the cars are starting to get near to us. And by the way, you have to understand, drivers out there, not most of them are ethicals. That is why it is dangerous for self-driving cars to drive, to be funded. That is why we reject on the effort of funding the creation of self-driving cars that could cause damage to the human itself. Thus, I raise my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hanina. The Deputy Leader of Opposition spoke for 5 minutes, 29 seconds. Next, I would like to call upon the Government Whip, Mrs. Ui Ling. The floor is yours.
So a very good afternoon to the Madam Speakers, distinguished guests, and members of the floor. Today, as the government team, we would like to strongly agree on the debate motion, which is this support the efforts to fund the creations of self-driving cars. So before I start to summarize the points from the affirming, I would like to take this opportunity to first address some of the problematic points that have been previously raised up by the opposition team. So firstly, from the opposition leader, he claimed that self-driving cars will lead to unintended consequence or unforeseen circumstances. This is forced to claim that as 90% of all vehicle crashes are caused by fully or in part by human error. Self-driving cars, according to a study, can eliminate sense and perceptions errors such as driver's distractions up to 34% of the crashes. So, figure tells if 90% of the accidents will be caused by human error and self-driving car can cut up to 1/3 of it, why don't we just put in some effort to fund the creations of self-driving cars as we can save life? Imagine there are so many road accidents happen annually. Loss of life, families are broken, and causes destructions to the society. If we can prevent that, why don't we? And the first speaker has claimed that self-driving cars will cause higher rate of accidents. This is definitely wrong because self-driving cars are equipped with collision preventive system. This is when something gets faster or nearer to the car will either raise up itself a bit or stop directly. This is just effective to prevent road accident, isn't it? So, and sorry, yeah. The points from the second speaker is that you are expecting human emotions in cars. Why do we need human emotions in vehicles? We can just detect their body language if they are going to move towards our cars or not. If yes, then we stop. That's it. You don't have to get face recognition. They can all be done by car cameras. So why do we need self-driving cars to recognize humans' emotions? I don't see that makes any sense. And yes, why do we need and you're not opposing self-driving cars. You are directly against any technology advancement. Imagine if cars can drive by itself just like airplane with pilot mode, and you are willing to take on public transport like LRT, you're not holding the wheel, isn't it? So if we can do it on cars our own to increase our efficiency in life, why don't we? Now, I would like to proceed to summarize the points from our affirmative team. My first speaker has tried to convince you about self-driving cars in making people's life more efficient. Imagine if we can have driving and working at the same time to make it more effective for us to increase our productivity while driving. We know that if we drive for a long journey, it's going to be drowsy, it's going to be boring. if we can spend our time not only on the road condition, but on our work, isn't it sounds effective to increase our productivity on other works to contribute more to and makes our employees feel our valuable? Moreover, the second point by our first speaker is that self-driving cars reduce human error. We will discuss this in two factors. Firstly, on driver's fatigue. What is meant by driver fatigue? You get tired for a long journey. We don't say that if it's within 30 minutes, you won't fall asleep on your wheel. But imagine you are driving from Penang to Kelantan. It takes 8 hours. So that long journey, you won't feel tired. Can you promise that? So with self-driving cars, it helps to reduce the human factor that contributed to accidents. And secondly, the negative human behavior. Humans, when we see yellow light, what we do? You drive faster. And that contributes to road accidents because of maybe you cross the road with red lights, or you are not paying full attention on the road condition. This is why self-driving cars is there, because it helps to detect or predict the real-time condition with technologies such as car camera and AI system. So with this, it effectively reduces road conditions, road accidents. Next, the first point by my second speaker is that self-driving cars reduce the rate of accidents because self-driving cars can predict before the journey. They can analyze what is going to happen and the fastest road or the most effective road to prevent maybe traffic jams or road accidents that maybe the road condition is bad for driving at that particular time. So this is where we strongly believe that self-driving cars reduces rate of accidents. Lastly, self-driving cars are good for environment because self-driving cars reduces fuel consumptions with its data pool that they can generate the fastest route where directly you are saving fuel. So if we can power self-driving cars that is already a fact with electricity, where electricities can be coming from renewable energies, I don't see that is bad for any environment factor, because our air quality in big cities where traffic are busy can be enhanced, and breathing fresh air, isn't it a blessing? So with this, I would like to rest my case, and we strongly believe that efforts to fund the creations of self-driving cars are essential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Uyiling, for the points given. The government will spoke for 7 minutes, 1 second. Next, I would like to call upon the opposite way, this Mr. Ismail Hakim, to present his case. Mr. Ismail,
Yes,
are you
am I
here? Yes, you may
All right.
start now.
All right. So greetings and good afternoon, I bid to ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my fellow opponents and my fellow team members, our precious timekeeper for today. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the argument, before we get into the facts, factors, and reasoning, let us go back to the root cause of this motion for today. Firstly, this motion entitled "This House support the effort to fund the creation of self-driving cars." From the motion alone, we, from the opposition side, we deny the effort to fund the creation of self-driving cars, as we stand that self-driving cars prone towards risk rather than normal cars that we have. Now, I know what you have in your mind, but keep it for a moment. Now, before I get further into the rebuttal and my clarification from my team members, there are lots of things, there are lots of questions raised from our side. However, the government still haven't given a reply to that yet. And some of the question regards to the motion that we are discussing for today. Firstly, when we are mentioning the effort to fund, what do you mean by effort to the funding? Do you mean we use the people taxes, or do you mean we use the people's money illegally, stealing the money? We don't know yet. So it's possible that you could have gotten this effort from all the resources, and staying to say that fun is what really matters into this motion for today. Now, that's one method. Another thing, it's about the probability that we have mentioned about how self-driving cars are prone towards human accidents rather than human errors themselves. Because, ladies and gentlemen, self-driving cars are made from human. Human created these cars. They will not work with themselves. Self-driving cars does not have the emotions, the human judgmental, the same way as a human does have. Now, I will go for the rebuttal as well as clarification from my team side. The Prime Minister mentioned about her points and her clarification and the reasoning behind it. However, some question rises when she mentioned about reduced human error. Will they talk about the situation about the truck hitting the Myvi cars and saying that it's the human error? Sure, I can take that fact. But they then explain about, so then what do you mean by telling the function of the self-driving cars, but not telling how it can reduce human error? We can just take that statement. We cannot just take that statement out of no reasoning. So that's why I want to ask about that. And another point, saying that make people life easier. Some vague statement right there, pretty bold, and yet still no question or mechanism to implement. How are you going to use this fund to make these self-driving cars ease the people's daily life? How are you going to implement them? Is it either by having a dedicated path for these self-driving cars, or are you saying that human can adapt to it? What do you mean by how human can adapt to self-driving cars? Do you everyone can adapt to it because of how, oh, it's self-driving, you don't have to do anything? Well, then how long does it take for human, in what scale, to adapt to these new functions of self-driving cars when we are in the world where people can now drive cars and there are people who drive self-driving cars? At the end of the day, it does not matter whether it's human or self-driving cars. The matters begin where how can it adapt to humanity if the cars itself can prone to accident as well due to the security has been mentioned by the first speaker from our side. Now, a bit of clarification from the first speaker from the opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, we mentioned from the first speaker about the unintended consequences regarding security. Well, the false sense of security where the driver, aka the passenger as well, because they are technically not driving yet, they are more like sitting there and navigate the car itself and telling them where to go, and the car will reach to that destination. However, are you implying that because of its self-driving cars, does that mean we don't need license anymore? If we don't need license anymore, what about the job opportunities for those who are working in the driving classes? Okay, that's one question. I don't need the answers. I just want to ask you a lot of questions regarding what our points and my rebuttals regarding is. And when we mentioning about the moral mission dilemma, or implying that we do not have the efficiency, the self-driving car do not have the efficiency as human regarding the human judgmental. Now, my second speaker, let me clarify things a bit for her. Well, she is given that some situation or scenario on where the self-driving car has to do some human judgmental decision, where if there is a kid pedestrian walking across the path and a self-driving car is driving at 100 km/h, how do you expect that car to slow down and stop? You mentioned about the camera. How do you think that reliability of the camera is good enough? Is it a 4K camera? Is it a CCTV quality camera? There are so many questions, and yet no answer has been given again from the government. Now, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, I would like to mention a few things regarding the Deputy Prime Minister. When she mentioned about reducing pollution again and again, I still am not convinced yet on how do you think having the self-driving cars working in our modern society will help curb the situation of pollution. Now, you want to raise fund for self-driving cars, yet you don't think that if we have the same amount of cars, self-driving cars production, what do you think about the energy consumption that it needs? What do you mean by they use renewable energy? And if you think that's still going to help you, how much is the cost for that renewable energy? Because if you think that the cost for the renewable energy for your self-driving cars is much better than the gasoline that we are using now, or petrol, are you implying that the cost that we are using is actually more expensive than the normal cost? And with that, how do you expect people in the whole world to expect you to use this fund and make it more for the self-driving cars? Hence all the question, and yet still no answer. I, from the opposition side, raise this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ismail Hakim. The opposition whip spoke for 7 minutes, 12 seconds. Now, 3 minutes will be given to both teams to prepare their reply speeches. The time starts now. Your 3 minutes is up. Ladies and gentlemen, this debate will resume with the reply speeches. Let us now invite opposition team to sum up the case for today's debate.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, the Deputy Minister said that machines are depending on human beings, right? So, but yet you support the self-driving cars, which is contradicts to your idea of self-driving cars, as we depend on the AI to drive us. What is your point actually here? Oh my. So the third speaker from government said that we are, the third speaker from the government, we are not against all technologies. That why we ask you what level of automation are you talking about? There's 5 levels of automation that has been mentioned on my first speech. They never enlightened us at the very first place, especially by the Prime Minister. No wonder the following speaker are mumbling on the benefits of self-driving car, yada yada, that we already know, all right? So the third speaker also quote, I'm quoting your statement that system, have you heard about the system haywire? They surely support that you are clueless about AI, and you are repeatedly said that self-driving cars can save life. Yet, let's say accident do happen. Who are to be blamed? Does it give justice to the one killed in the accident? We don't need emotion during driving. I will not want you to drive me, as emotions are the one who making us aware of our surroundings, being scared or cautious. Emotions are the factors of decisive for enhanced safety and comfort while driving. Clearly, ladies and gentlemen, the third speaker is a reckless driver. Stephen Hawking, all right, ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, and Bill Gates, and many other big names in science and technology have recently expressed concerns in the media and via open letters about the risk posed by AI or self-driving cars that we're talking about, joined by many leading AI researchers. Because AI has the potential to become more intelligent than any human, we have no surefire way of predicting how it will behave. We can use past technological developments as much of a basis because we've never created anything that has the ability to wittingly or unwittingly outsmart us. The best example of we could face may be our own evolution. People now control the planet not because we are the strongest, fastest, or biggest, but because we are the smartest. If we are no longer the smartest, are we assured to remain in control? Hence, aforementioned justification by me about unintended consequence, or mainly about safety, the dangers of the self-driving cars, the false sense of security, the danger of the fire lithium-ion Li batteries are well known of the highly combustible, and I've already mentioned of the 4 incidents happened caused by several types of Tesla model. And together with justification by my beautiful Deputy Minister, gracefully explained to you a lacking of human judgment, and also my whip sums up the argument. This House haven't moved an inch, and this House reject on supporting of the effort to fund the creation of self-driving car. I ask you, members of the floor, is it worth it to fund millions for self-driving cars rather than funding millions for things that we can see results and we want it now? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Sauban, for summing up the opposition team. Lastly, we welcome the government team to sum up their case for today's debate.
By hearing all of the points from the oppositions, I would rather say that the opposition approved with the motion, rather opposing it. I think you are not aware of this modern time evolutions for cars. Seems like you didn't do enough reading and understand between self-driving cars and manual drive cars. We I think the entire debate clearly stated that the efforts in funding creation of self-driving cars. So you say that it reduces the safety and even about the lithium battery for today. This mode is wife more efficient. So when you say that our Deputy Prime Minister is contradict with where technology is based on the human, so I'm gonna ask you, the technologies is going to have impact on our daily life. We should be thinking of a long-term effect, the cost. So the algorithms is created by humans and the AI learn by itself after all. So you think of this, where the self-driving cars is based on all of the algorithms based on the past things, and it learns from human errors, and if they don't depend on human input, where it is from? After all, who would be responsible for a result badly analyzed by a machine? It is, of course, the programmer and all, but with accumulated experience from all over the world, AI can predict any error prior, hence avoid the unnecessary repetitive work. So I would just say, if you are saying about haywire and all those stuff, we are currently in a room using computer. It's also one of the AI where it is implemented from only 2 points, and only if based on the example, the scenario that you have given, the cars have the radar sensor. They detect all of the error, all of the stuff that we have already wiped out the opposition, because obviously opposition two separate paths. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sharath, for summing up the government's case. Ladies and gentlemen, with that marks the end of the debate today. Honorable adjudicators will be directed to another
I'm not going anywhere. Where am I supposed to go?
Yeah, I'm not acted yet.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll just wait.
Yeah, I have informed them. Just wait for the new breakout.
Oh wait. Okay, never mind. Trinket's still here too. Never mind.
Hey, hi everyone. Have you completed your session?
They were
Oh,
just
sorry.
waiting
I
for
would like for I would like for all the teams, but the both teams to leave the room There's a button on your right. It says leave the room. So the educators will have this place to discuss. All right. Thank you so much. Please leave except for the educators. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, everyone, good debate.
Is everyone left yet?
Left I guess all of them left.
Yes.
Okay. Is this being recorded right now?
Amina, shouldn't be recorded. Amina, are you here?
Yes.
Shouldn't be recorded for this session.